So in human design, there are 9 different energy centers, which map in some ways to the chakra system, but it really is kind of these different areas of our body, like you said, that kind of govern different parts of our lives, like in terms of governing how we deal with stress, how we deal with emotions, how we deal with how we communicate, our intuition. And there are areas where we're really, really sensitive to others, which is really important to be aware of, and also areas where we really impact other people with our energy. In each of those areas, I think that we can kind of be in the shadow or the wisdom of it. So I love exploring that with clients because it's just useful to know.
Let's just start with so there's essentially 5 types, as I understand it, which are kind of like the main types, right? And then there's other layers that you can add in. Like I mentioned, there's these authorities and there's numbers, but really the essence of human design is in these 5 types. Perhaps it'd be helpful for you to talk through these 5 types.
Yeah, of course. So in human design, there are 5 types, like you said: manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. If y'all want to look yours up, you can at humandesignblueprint.com. It's going to be a crazy looking chart. Look at the type piece first, don't need to understand it all at the beginning. But our type is such an important piece, and it's also just the first piece. There's so much more underneath it, like you said. But our types speak to how we best use our energy and also how to create the most aligned opportunities for ourselves. So manifesting generators and generators are the majority. Doesn't mean they're not rare. Again, everything else underneath their design is going to be so unique and different, but it basically means that they really have so much powerful energy to kind of build and create and make things happen. When they're really lit up and excited by what they're doing, they have so much energy, they become so much more magnetic, and they kind of like bring energy to everyone around them. And so a big lesson for both of those types is really prioritizing their own satisfaction, their own excitement, not seeing that as a selfish choice. Boundaries is really important for them because they have so much powerful energy. People can want to take advantage of it in lots of ways. So really trusting their gut to know what they're available for. Manifesting generators specifically are meant to be quite kind of multi-passionate by nature, moving their energy in between lots of different things. They are designed to kind of pivot, shift direction, reinvent themselves. They're often very fast at making things happen. And generators really bring this kind of like steadfast, masterful, and committed energy to what they do. And both manifesting generators and generators are meant to let things come to them and wait for things to kind of spark their gut before they go after it.
And my memory is this is like, as you said, like the majority of the population are going to fit into one of these 2.
Correct.
I noticed that you kind of lump those 2 together. Maybe is there a reason why those kind of work together or don't?
Yeah, I think there are plenty of human design teachers that actually don't separate them at all. I think that they are, because they share a strategy, because they're both meant to let things come to them. They're both doers. Like it is so many of the like core tenets they share, but there are some nuances, and the biggest ones being that like often manifesting generators are quite multi-passionate, like doing lots of things, like being really fast, whereas generators might be a little bit more like, I will dive deeply into this thing, and then I will dive deeply into this thing. But there is a lot of similarity, and more similarity than difference, but there's some nuance to it. So projectors are the next type, and they really are here to be leaders, teachers, guides, advisors, not here to do all the doing. They often are very innately sensitive to and wise about people. And so they often end up in positions of CEO, manager, guide, coach, leader, like somewhere where they're really kind of like guiding others and asking the right questions. Their energy really ebbs and flows throughout the day. And so building kind of space and rest and ease into their days can be really important for them. They often love systems like human design. They love kind of anything that helps them better understand people and how they work. And their strategy is to be recognized and invited in. So as projectors, I'm a projector. It's really important to kind of invest my energy in the places where I feel the most seen. And I think in terms of building a business, like it has not happened for me from like pitching or initiating opportunities, but just sharing and making myself visible and knowing that I am not for everyone, but like the right people will kind of resonate with the way that I share and invite me in. And so it's been really,
Erin, would you be willing to come on my podcast?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it happens. But it's also like, I don't know. Do you find me on Instagram initially?
I believe through a mutual friend. Yes.
Through a mutual friend. Yeah, I feel like and so then we did a session, it's just like all these kind of experiences, and so like, that's just been such a big lesson for me of like, how can I just make myself visible and share myself with the world and trust that the right invitations will come from that. Then we've got manifestors, which is you.
Yeah. Let's talk about manifestors.
Yeah. So manifestors are really, they're about 8 to 9% of the population, and they're really here to be the initiators, the disruptors, people that are really good at kind of getting things started and getting the ball rolling, not always sort of do all the doing themselves. And so having the right support and allies around you is often key. and your energy is very bursty in a way that's different than projectors. Like you might have a couple days, couple weeks, couple hours where you're like on fire making something happen. And then you got to like pull back and retreat and reset and kind of wait for the next inspiration to kind of arise within you. Manifestors tend to really thrive with a lot of freedom. You are not really here to be told what to do, managed or guided in any way, here to do things on your own terms and in your own way. And a little bit disruptive. Like you're kind of just here to like initiate and provoke people into like new ways of doing things and to kind of walk a new path.
Like maybe start a podcast called Crazy Wisdom that's about all of these wild, unorthodox places we find ourselves in when we're wanting to live a deeper life.
100%. That's so much of the journey of a manifestor is like, I want to be super out of the box. I want to be disruptive and different. And like, I can't fit in, And so your strategy, and this is part of the impulsively creating, is that you're really here to initiate. You're really here to kind of just like start the things that come to you and just trust it, even if you don't know where it's going to take you. And just make sure that in the process of doing so, that you keep the people around you in the loop.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this piece around getting the right people around me that they thrive when they know exactly where they're pushing, what they're, what's success for them, like giving them very clear direction about, hey, let's do this, and here's how you're going to win doing this, and empowering the people around me to kind of run with things. And that's that. Once I could kind of unlock that, it really allowed me to create in a much more natural way.
Yes.
So just I've had to really invest in like, what's the team around me, getting the right people and the right things around me for my work.
Yeah. And also so much of being a manifestor, I know we've talked about this, is that like you're really good at getting things off the ground, but like you might not have the energy to like keep all the things alive, And so like it's really good to have the right support where you can like be in the like initiating beginning energy and also hand things off and like free yourself up for the next thing to initiate, And so having the right support is so key because you're just really not here to do it all alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also just honoring that sometimes I need like a week to just go get lost in the woods and not see another human. And,
So
and
good for
then
you.
I'll be in the woods, and all of a sudden I'll have a major download, and it's like, okay, I need to go, whatever, start a podcast or write an article or, launch a new retreat. So
yeah, totally. And you'll just know. And that's why it's like, if you don't give yourself time to like take rest in that way, you become pretty unavailable for all these ideas and inspirations that want to come through you. And so that's why like rest and solitude is so key for you, because you're making yourself available for it.
yeah, right on. Okay. Those are us manifestors.
And then one more type.
The last one is the reflector, if I remember correctly.
Yes, correct. The rarest type. These people are our collective mirrors, people that are deeply sensitive to their physical space and kind of always taking in and magnifying the energy that they're around. And so you get a really good sense of how a company is doing or a team is doing based on how that reflector is showing up. And so they really are meant to be such ruthless curators of the people and places they're spending time with and in, because they're taking in and magnifying so much of that energy themselves. They are very fluid. They're going to have days where they feel like a manifestor, like a manifesting generator, like a generator. And like their job is not really to show up in just one way, but to honor whatever feels like them that day. And we call them evaluators in the context of business, because they really just like see and sense things that most people don't. And so it's often really important for them to kind of be in spaces where they really treasure, where their perspective feels really treasured and invited in.
Great. So those are the 5 types. And like in these systems, we start to just understand what our motivations are, how we best kind of create. And this lays over a couple of other domains or dimensions, right? So in the chart, there's also areas of kind of openness and authority that kind of map to the human body, or kind of the Chinese medicine system. Can you talk us through a little bit of that part of this model?
Yep. The centers you're talking about, right?
Centers, yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you.
So in human design, there are 9 different energy centers, which map in some ways to the chakra system, but it really is kind of these different areas of our body, like you said, that kind of govern different parts of our lives, like in terms of governing how we deal with stress, how we deal with emotions, how we deal with how we communicate, our intuition. And there are areas where we're really, really sensitive to others, which is really important to be aware of, and also areas where we really impact other people with our energy. And in each of those areas, I'll give an example with you for one, but like in each of those areas, I think that we can kind of be in the shadow or the wisdom of it. So I love exploring that with clients because it's just useful to know. Like, for example, can I use you as a example?
Yes, please.
So one of the areas where you tell me what you prefer. Would you prefer to hear about your very empathic nature or your very fluid identity nature?
Uh, both, but maybe we.
Okay, we're talking about the
let's
both.
start.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So, two of the areas that I would say are potential challenges for you, but also areas of extraordinary wisdom. One is that you have what we call an open emotional center, or undefined, but yours is wide open. So it means that you are hyper empathic. Somebody is feeling a thing and you're like, cool, I feel what you're feeling and I'm actually going to amplify it. I'm at like 200% of where you're at. And so like it
Which
makes,
used to drive me nuts as a kid, right? Like
oh,
I
I can
was just feeling
imagine.
everybody all the time. But once I figured out how to kind of regulate my own nervous system and kind of ground and found meditation and yoga, it's a superpower, right? I can
Such a
be in somebody's
superpower.
presence and I can feel what they're feeling, and it
Totally.
guides me on how to help them and take them in their own healing or take them deeper into themselves, right?
That's it. Like that, and that's so the gift. The gift is like the shadow is overwhelm. It's like I don't know how to discern between what's mine and what's not. And I'm actually personalizing all these things that are not my own. And I feel like touchy and nervous and like more moody than actually feels natural. The wisdom as you're reflecting is like, I am the most powerful mirror. I can like sense where you're feeling. I can actually help you move through your feelings, but it's because I know they're not my own. It requires this kind of like healthy sense of detachment. And so it's just useful to know these elements, this spectrum, so we can really leverage the gifts because, like you said, it's such an amazing superpower. I have so many friends and clients that have like written books on emotions because they're like, they have that center open and they're just like are experiencing the whole spectrum. In terms of the identity piece, this is another area where you're meant to be very fluid. So, you are not really here to have one sense of purpose or one sense of identity. It's not like, this is who I am. I am Luke and I figured out my purpose and I'm like with it for life. Like you might be like, in this time of my life, I'm expressing this way around this person. This
Mm-hmm.
part of me comes out. Like you are so vast in how you're here to express yourself. And so I would say probably the biggest shadow for you is trying to niche down and put yourself into one box. And the wisdom for you is getting super curious and be like, what part of me wants to come out today? Because I know I'm a multitude of things, and you can be so gifted at helping guide others around their sense of purpose and their sense of direction.
Yeah. I mean, this is where this system is just, it's kind of mind
A
blowing
little
how
freaky.
it nails you, like yeah, I just see these different chapters of my life professionally or in relationship. It just like, there's all these different permutations. And as you say, like the times when I've really chosen to go deep in one area, usually is the time that it's like I feel most alive. Right.
Yes,
So,
totally. And it's just like going deep and also being like, and when it changes, that's okay. And then the piece that I would share around an area of your design that's more consistent, that's a little bit more kind of where you draw your energy from, but can also be challenging for you is you've got a really strong sense of will. And so this is what we call a defined heart or ego center. And it means that when your heart is in it, you can kind of do anything and you can actually do anything like really fast. Your whole design is just like speed. And so I would say the shadow of this is having unrealistic expectations for other people where you're like, why is everyone not doing it like me? And actually like no one can do it as
uh-huh.
well. So like, I'm going to take it on. And the wisdom for you is like, how can I hold people to high standards, but not be unrealistic in my expectations of them? How can I
hmm
like delegate and allow and support and also not expect them to do it like me? And just trust that they're going to have their own way. And also what I love about this one, just knowing what you do is that you have this really empowering energy. Like when you're around people, they're like, I can do anything. Anything's possible. They might get out of your energy and they're like, I don't know how to maintain that self belief. Like Luke
hmm
gave me
Yeah.
access. Like, how do I keep it up? And it's useful for you to be
Oh,
aware of.
geez.
So you can be like, I'm going to lend this to you, but I'm also going to like consider ways that you can build systems that help you sustain it so that like it's not always dependent on kind of that consistent willpower self belief.
Oh my gosh, I feel so seen in the most painful, in the most painfully exquisite way.
I
Thank
know,
you.
right? Not always fun though.